Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're diving into something absolutely explosive that has the entire music industry talking, an army around the world celebrating. We're talking about a Grammy-winning producer who's worked with some of the biggest names in global music, someone whose opinion carries serious weight in the industry, making some absolutely shocking statements about Jungkook's vocal abilities and how he compares to other vocalists around the world. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that what this producer revealed has completely changed the conversation about K-pop vocalists in the Western music industry, and has people genuinely recognizing Jungkook as one of the top vocalists globally, not just in K-pop. The specific comments this producer made, the context behind them, and the reaction from industry professionals and media outlets worldwide have been absolutely incredible. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, smash that like, drop a comment telling me what you think about Jungkook's vocals, and let's get into this amazing story that's literally making waves across the entire global music industry right now. Alright, so let me start by telling you exactly who we're talking about and why their opinion matters so much. The producer in question is Diplo, and if you don't know who that is, let me give you some context. Diplo is not just any producer. This is a Grammy Award-winning producer and DJ who has worked with literally the biggest names in music. We're talking Beyoncé, Madonna, Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande, The Weeknd, Billie Eilish, and so many more. He's produced some of the most iconic tracks of the past 2 decades, he's won multiple Grammy Awards, and he's genuinely considered one of the most influential figures in contemporary music production. When Diplo talks about vocals and artists, the entire industry listens because he's worked with the absolute best and knows exactly what world-class talent sounds like. Now, Diplo has been working on BTS's upcoming comeback album called Ararang, which is set to drop on March 20th, and he's been in the studio with the members, particularly working closely with their vocal recordings. And during a recent interview, Diplo made some statements about Jungkook that absolutely exploded across social media and music industry circles. He said, and I'm quoting directly here, Jungkook? "There is no need for autotune. He has a perfect voice." Now, you might think that sounds like a nice compliment, but when you understand the context of what he's really saying and how rare it is for a producer of his caliber to make such a definitive statement, you realize this is actually huge. Let me explain why this statement is so significant. In the modern music industry, autotune and vocal correction software have become absolutely standard. And I'm not just talking about obvious autotune effects like you hear in some hip-hop or electronic music. I'm talking about subtle pitch correction that happens on almost every commercial recording nowadays. Even singers who are technically very good often have at least some minor pitch correction applied to their vocals in post-production because it's become industry standard to have absolutely perfect pitch on recorded tracks. Producers use autotune not necessarily because singers can't sing, but because it allows them to achieve a level of technical perfection that's almost impossible to maintain across an entire recording session. It's just become part of the normal production process. So when Diplo, someone who works with the absolute top tier of global vocalists, says that Jungkook doesn't need autotune, he's not just saying Jungkook can sing well. He's saying that Jungkook's natural vocal ability is so strong, his pitch control is so precise, his technique is so solid, that the usual industry standard vocal correction that gets applied to basically everyone is actually unnecessary for him. That puts Jungkook in an incredibly rare category of vocalists whose raw, natural ability is at a level where producers can just record them and use those vocals without needing to fix or enhance anything. That's not a compliment, that's a statement of objective technical excellence. But Diplo didn't stop there. He also called Jungkook a perfect singer, which is again something that carries a lot more weight than it might initially seem. In production terminology, a perfect singer typically refers to someone who has the complete package: excellent pitch, strong technique, good tone, emotional delivery, consistency across takes, and the ability to execute what the song requires without needing multiple attempts or heavy editing. It means you can rely on that vocalist to deliver professional quality performances consistently. For someone like Diplo, who's worked with vocalists across every genre and at every level of the industry, to use the terminology about Jungkook is a massive endorsement of his abilities. Now, the reaction to Diplo's comments has been fascinating to watch. Within hours of his interview, major music industry publications and platforms started picking up the story. Billboard, which is obviously the most prestigious music industry publication in the world, had their columnist Jeff Benjamin tweet about it, highlighting Diplo's praise and calling Jungkook a perfect singer. The World Music Awards, which is one of the major international music award organizations, posted about it on their official social media. People magazine, which reaches a massive mainstream audience, covered it. Pop Base, Pop Crave, and multiple other major music news platforms all shared the story. Even mainstream outlets like MSN picked it up. This isn't just K-pop media or fan accounts talking about this. This is mainstream Western music industry media recognizing and validating what Diplo said about Jungkook. What makes this even more interesting is the broader context of how K-pop vocalists have historically been perceived in the Western music industry. For a long time, there was this unfortunate attitude in some Western music circles that K-pop idols were more about performance and visuals than actual vocal ability, that they were manufactured pop products rather than genuine artists. That perception has been changing gradually, especially as BTS has achieved massive success and respect, but there were still lingering doubts in some quarters about whether K-pop vocalists could really compete with Western artists at the highest technical level. Diplo's statement absolutely demolishes that narrative. Here you have one of the most respected producers in Western music, someone who's worked with vocalists from every genre and background, saying definitively that Jungkook's natural vocal ability is at the absolute top tier globally. That's not K-pop industry hype, that's Western industry validation from someone with no reason to exaggerate. Let's talk about what actually makes Jungkook's vocals so special from a technical standpoint, because I think understanding this helps explain why someone like Diplo would be so impressed. First, Jungkook has exceptional pitch control. If you listen to his live performances, his pitch is incredibly stable even while he's dancing intensely or in challenging performance situations. That kind of pitch stability is actually quite rare even among professional singers. Second, his tone is distinctively beautiful but also versatile. He can do powerful belting, soft and delicate passages, emotional vulnerability, and confident swagger all within one song, and his voice sounds good in all those different modes. Third, his technique is really solid. He has good breath support, healthy vocal production that doesn't sound strained, and the ability to execute difficult runs and transitions smoothly. Fourth, and this is huge, he's incredibly consistent. Whether it's the first take of the day or the 20th, whether he's in the studio or performing live in front of thousands of people, Jungkook delivers consistent quality. For producers, that consistency is gold. Industry professionals who've worked with Jungkook have mentioned similar things repeatedly. Producers talk about how he can nail difficult vocal parts quickly, how he takes direction well but also brings his own artistic interpretation, how his recordings require minimal correction or editing. Live sound engineers have praised how his voice translates well to different acoustic environments. Other artists who've collaborated with him talk about how professional and skilled he is in the studio. All of this creates a picture of someone who's not just talented but genuinely world-class in terms of technical ability and professional execution. What I find really interesting is comparing Diplo's comments about Jungkook to things he said about other vocalists he's worked with over the years. Diplo tends to be pretty measured in his public comments. He'll praise artists he works with, but he's usually pretty professional and diplomatic. He doesn't often make these kind of absolute statements like perfect voice or no need for autotune. The fact that he chose to express himself so definitively about Jungkook suggests he was genuinely impressed in a way that stood out even compared to all the other world-class vocalists he's worked with throughout his career. That says something really significant. There's also been some really interesting discussion in the vocal coaching and music education community about Diplo's comments. Professional vocal coaches have been analyzing Jungkook's performances and breaking down what makes his technique so strong. Music theory educators have been talking about his musicality and phrasing. Even people who aren't necessarily BTS fans or K-pop fans but are just serious about music and vocal technique have been acknowledging that Jungkook is legitimately exceptional. That kind of crossover recognition from the serious music education community is really meaningful because these are people who evaluate vocalists based purely on technical merit without any of the fandom or genre bias that sometimes clouds discussions about pop music. The timing of Diplo's comments is also really interesting because it comes right before BTS's comeback with the Erarang album. This means that Diplo has been working with Jungkook's vocals on new material, hearing him in the studio environment, and presumably hearing what Jungkook can do with their new songs. The fact that he's this enthusiastic after working directly with Jungkook in a professional studio setting suggests that ARMY should be really excited about what Jungkook's vocals are going to sound like on the new album. If a producer like Diplo is this impressed, it means we're probably going to hear something really special when Erarang drops. It's also worth noting that Diplo's comments aren't coming in isolation. Over the past few years, we've seen increasing recognition of Jungkook's vocal abilities from various industry professionals. When he released his solo album Golden, vocal coaches around the world were analyzing and praising his performances. When 7 and 3D became massive hits, industry professionals were noting how his vocals were a big part of what made those songs work so well. Music critics who reviewed his solo work consistently highlighted his vocal performance as a major strength. So Diplo's comments are really part of a larger pattern of Western music industry professionals increasingly recognizing and validating Jungkook's talent at the highest level. What makes this story even better is how it reflects on Jungkook's journey and dedication. Jungkook didn't just wake up one day with a perfect voice. He's been training and working on his craft since he was a teenager. Stories from BTS's early days talk about how dedicated he was to vocal practice, how he would work with vocal coaches for hours, how seriously he took developing his technique. Even now, as one of the biggest stars in the world, he still works with vocal coaches and continues to develop his abilities. The fact that all that dedication and hard work has resulted in him being recognized by someone like Diplo as a vocalist who doesn't need autotune and has a perfect voice is really a testament to how much effort Jungkook has put into his craft over the years. The broader impact of Diplo's comments on how K-pop vocalists are perceived internationally is also something worth considering. When high-profile Western industry figures like Diplo make these kind of definitive statements about K-pop artists, it helps break down remaining barriers and prejudices. It becomes harder for people to dismiss K-pop artists as just manufactured products when Grammy-winning producers who've worked with everyone are saying that K-pop artists like Jungkook are on par with or potentially better than many Western artists in terms of pure vocal ability. That kind of validation from within the Western music industry itself is really powerful for changing perceptions and earning respect for K-pop artists as serious musicians and vocalists. Looking at the bigger picture, what Diplo's comments represent is a shift in how global music industry professionals view K-pop artists and specifically BTS members. It's a recognition that these aren't just pop stars or performers, these are world-class vocalists and musicians who can stand alongside anyone in the global music industry in terms of technical ability and artistic merit. For Jungkook specifically, it's validation from one of the most respected producers in the world that his natural talent and developed skills put him at the absolute top tier of vocalists globally. That's not hype, that's not fan exaggeration, that's professional assessment from someone who knows exactly what world-class vocal ability looks like because he's worked with the best in the business. So guys, that's the story of what Grammy producer Diplo said about Jungkook and why it's such a big deal. When one of the most respected producers in global music, someone who's worked with literally everyone, says that Jungkook doesn't need autotune and has a perfect voice, that's not just a nice compliment, that's a statement about Jungkook being at the absolute top level of vocalists worldwide. And the fact that major media outlets, industry platforms, and music professionals around the world picked up on this and amplified it shows that this isn't just ARMY celebrating, this is the global music industry recognizing and validating Jungkook's exceptional talent. What do you think about Diplo's comments? Does this change how people should view K-pop vocalists? Are you excited to hear Jungkook's vocals on the Erarang album after hearing this kind of praise from someone like Diplo? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, please give this video a huge thumbs up, share it with everyone who needs to hear about this validation of Jungkook's talent, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.